what's going on?
Not much. Let me turn my phone up, make sure I can hear you good.
Okay, all good.
Hey, I was supposed to say, "What's up? What's up? What's up?"
Right?
I
Straight
didn't
from
have
Martin.
my I didn't have my coffee. Um, so welcome to Care Dangerous Talk, Miss Jamel.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited about this. Well, before I start, just spewing off my thoughts or whatnot, let's go ahead and start the show how I love to start it by giving you your flowers. So I just want you to sit back and relax, and I'm going to tell you, Miss Jemele Hill, why I love you.
Oh, so now you're just gonna embarrass me. I get it.
Okay, here we go. And you're not easily to be embarrassed, I know. So, here we go. You know what? You just such a cool lady to me. Uh, you just humble. Anytime I just want to talk, I can hit you up. You reply back. When I first met you, you were cool. You never changed. You know how some people, they're one person on one day, they're another person on another day. You just Jamel all the time. And I love that about you. You're just a humble person. You're a good-hearted person. You fearless. And I really respect that. I'm not gonna give you too many compliments in here because I'm gonna give you more compliments as the conversation go along. But
Okay.
that's what I love about you.
Well, that's really humbling that you would say that about me. Uh, Thank you, and believe it or not, compliments do actually embarrass me. So that wasn't a lie. It's like normally I'm not real good at taking compliments. I don't know why, but that's to be examined later, I guess. But
Right.
I always appreciated you because you as well were. I appreciate consistent people. You've always been yourself, nothing more, and especially as you know, when we were working at ESPN, it's a very high strung environment. And so you always had, a laugh or a smile, or you would always say something funny that,
I try. I
that
try to
would,
be.
yeah, you always bring some manner of levity to whatever situation. So I always enjoy working with you. So it was always a lot of fun.
Thank you. That's so sweet of you to say. And I love compliments. Every now and then they kind of embarrass me too, but for the most part, I welcome them. um,
Understood. I'm trying to get where you are.
one day at a time, sister. One day at a time. So check this out. I was wondering, do you remember the first time we met? Because I do. I just want to know, do you remember though?
Man, I feel like, and you can, I'm sure I'm wrong because I am the worst person when it comes to, do you remember the day that we met? Was it on set? It had to be on set, I'm assuming. It was not on
No,
set.
no.
Okay. All right. What was the first time we met?
The first time we met, to my recollection, is you were coming out the stairway
Hmm.
in the ESPN radio hall. And I said, "Hey, I like your outfit. You were wearing like a little vest, I think, and a little tie. Do you remember that outfit? Like a
I think I do. Yeah.
You don't wear those anymore, but
No.
back then you know upgraded the wardrobe a little bit.
Yeah,
But
you get a few more coins. Though I think it might have been, I'm wondering, because it was something I wore of that, but it was a reason I wore it, and I don't remember what the reason was. But anyway, go ahead.
yeah, so that's the first time we met. And to be honest with you, I didn't know much about you, but I always remember when I met you then. And then later on, I remember when you started, well, to me, you were being more vocal. And I remember talking to one of my friends, Shadi, and I was like, "Have you heard some of the things Jamel has been saying?" I was like, "I love this." And he was like, "She's always been vocal, Kara. She's always been like this." It was about Twitter. And I was like, wow. So, the more I started to learn you, the more I just was like, wow, she's pretty damn cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people ask me, what made you decide to become so vocal, or when did you start really speaking out? I'm like, I've always been this way. So to me, I'm just staying truly within character. Is that this is always me. That's not to say I go around with my fist raised everywhere, but if it's something that needs to be said, I say it. And so I've never had a problem with that throughout my whole life. And it's just, I guess, when you're at a place like ESPN, that's amplified. So people, sort of look at that and think like, oh, she just started speaking out. Like, nah, not really, but
Right.
okay, okay.
I'm no stranger. I don't know if you know this, to voicing my opinion as well.
No, not you. Shocking.
Something that we share in common is we're both Sagittarius. How about that? You barely
Yeah,
made it though, right? Like
I
you,
did. I just got in. I was like in the last group.
but look, I'm claiming you though. We're very
Thank you.
optimistic people. You welcome. We're very vocal, so we
Yep.
got that in common, and I love that.
And very
Um,
direct too, very blunt, right? People always say that about you, I'm sure.
yes, yes. What have you heard, Jamel? I am very direct, but you know what? I grew up in the South, Jamel, and I went through challenges that helped mold me to be that way. I encountered a lot of racism. I encountered a lot of arrogance. And
Mm-hmm.
I was so innocent as a child. And this is not me being interviewed, but I just want to say it. I was so shy as a child, believe it or not, that it took those situations. It made me speak out more. Like when people were mean to me, or like, hearing somebody say the N word in my class, a white student, that made me be more vocal. Because
Mm.
once I learned my history, I'm like, I can't be quiet. I got to speak up. So
Right.
I'm just wondering, you being a Black woman from Detroit, how did Detroit mold you as the Jemele Hill we know today?
Well, I think the biggest thing with being from Detroit is that if you met people from Detroit before, is that we're all what you see is what you get. We're definitely all that way, but we also have a bit of a chip on our shoulder because my city, when I was growing up, we were never in the news for anything good ever. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can count on Detroit making the national news twice a year. Once was when they released the murder rate because we were usually either number one or in the top three. And then we also had this really terrible tradition called Devil's Night, and that was the night of Halloween. And what would happen is that people would just set all the abandoned buildings on fire in Detroit, and some of them
Wow.
weren't abandoned. So it was literally like two, 300, sometimes 400 or 500 fires that would be set in the city, and that was such a national disgrace, and it was like really embarrassing, and so that would be the only time we would make the news. So I say all that to say is like we didn't have the cool factor of a Chicago, of a New York, of a LA, Miami, even though this is a majority Black city, uh, just as chocolatey as DC. Right? But we didn't
Mm-hmm.
have that same um, we didn't have that same kind of perception. People, I would be with people who are from, those major cities where we know crime is a reality. And I'd say, yeah, I'm from Detroit. They're like, oh, you from Detroit? It's like, you from LA? Like, and like, So it was just always something. We were always knocked down, and so because of that, like everybody sees the shirts now. They're really popular. Such and such versus everybody. Those started in Detroit, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
Detroit versus everybody, and then people started copying for different messages. So, but that's really a theme that we have in our mind. Like it's us against everybody else because people think that we should be overlooked or disregarded. And so, with that being said, when you come from a city like that, it gives you a certain level of toughness. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of that from there. And then growing up as like a tomboy in Detroit and playing sports and being around, like guys a lot, that definitely is something. I mean, you're a musician. I mean, you're in hip hop, so you're in a male dominated industry, and a lot of times when you're in industries like that or in the company of where it's a predominantly male atmosphere, as the only woman, they're gonna try to try you in certain ways, right? And
Right.
so, right, so you have to let them know that you ain't the one, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so, and you have to go back at them like they come back at you. And when people ask me about his and hers and the show I had with Mike, and one of the things they appreciated is the way we were able to go back and forth with each other. And I, like part of the reason was because of the way I grew up. And so I'm able to like you roast me, I'm roasting you. You talk about my mama, I'm talking about your mama. Like that's the way
Right.
it works. So because of that, I think those were all like characteristics growing up in a city like Detroit that like really served me well.
That's awesome. And I know another thing you and I have in common. You very close with your mother. And how was that relationship? I heard a funny story where you bought her a car, and that's a beautiful thing. Like that's the
Yeah.
moment I'm waiting on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, me, me and my mother, I guess the dynamic is interesting because my mother had me when she was 18. So
Mm.
I always had the young mama. Okay.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I always had the young mama. And so, and because of that and that dynamic, and with her, being sort of in and out of relationships until she got married, it said I had the young mama who was dating as well. So, uh,
Howdy, toddy, mama. Howdy.
I mean, she wasn't like out there like that necessarily, but she had her fun for sure. But it's also the reason why I think my musical tastes are what they are. I have her to thank for that. She went through a few heartbreaks, and that's how I got to learn about Tina Marie. So,
Yes,
'cause-
I love that.
but no, yeah, it's a moment that I think usually every child hopes that they can experience is when you can begin to give back to your parents in the way that they did when at least you may never, it's not like they're asking to be paid back, but you realize it's the sacrifices that they made so you could get to where you are. And so my mother made a lot. I mean, she was a single parent. We were on and off welfare. She's also a recovering addict, so it was a
Mm.
lot of challenges that I had to deal with growing up. And she always, as they say, made a way out of no way. And so once I started making a little bit of change at ESPN and got to a point where I could, kind of repay her, even though she never asked for it. Definitely one of the highlights, if not the highlight in my life, is being able to buy her a brand new car and the surprise for it the year she turned 60. So
Oh,
that
that's
was,
awesome.
yeah, so she was super shocked and very surprised. And yeah, it was just such a great moment.
Now I heard that you paid cash for the car,
That is true
but
because
that
look, you cannot give my manager, my agent was like, I don't understand why you didn't just lease it. I was like, because you cannot hand keys to a brand new car to a black woman of a certain age and she thinks it might be a car note to it. And I'm like, I can't do that. It has to be paid off. All right. So yes, I did pay cash for it.
baby, you sure you okay? That this car, all right, baby?
Exactly. And you can hear her saying exactly that in the video. She's like, how you gonna pay for this? I'm like, I pay cash for it. It's already paid for. It's like, no, nothing. You don't have to worry about it.
Oh man, that is such an awesome feeling. I know everybody wants to do that. Well, some people don't want to give back to their parents, which I find to be kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I guess it all depends on the kind of relationship you have with them, right? So it's
it,
some people didn't have a good relationship with their parents and they can't, but and then there are other people like that may not be something that they necessarily want to do. But when we've seen so many videos of when athletes buy their parents a car or a house, and that moment I really understand why that's so special to them, having been through it now.
yes, I want to get into some deep stuff about some of our experiences, because I hear a lot of talk from people who's been on air about the struggles that they had at different places.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
not gonna say the name because you got more money than me. I'm gonna try to stay safe.
Okay.
But before I get into that, I want to say I heard you say somewhere that before you worked at ESPN, you knew who you were. You knew who you were during, and you knew who you were after. Well, tell us, Jemele, who is Jemele Hill?
Well, when people ask you that, they say it like it should be something defined and set in stone, and it shouldn't be, because part of you discovering who you are is like you have to evolve, you have to grow. Charlemagne, the guy, said something that I thought was really poignant. He said, "You get to, like, I'm in my 40s now, so you get to a certain age, and you start honestly unlearning all the things that you thought you knew." And I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
cool part about gaining more wisdom as you get older. And so I mean, I tell that to people about knowing who you are, um, because the aesthetics or the geography is always going to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you go to places like a ESPN, you go to these big places that have these certain reputations. You got to know who you are before you step in the door, because if you don't, then your integrity will always be negotiable. That's why you need to know. And
Yes.
whether I'm at ESPN or whether I'm at a small market station, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be the same person. The things that are important to me are not going to change. My values, what I stand for, what I stand against is not going to change based off who I am. And I have seen throughout the course of my professional career that for a lot of people, it's negotiable depending on where they
Mm.
are. And so,
Yes.
because I had such a strong sense of who I was before all the fame and all the money and all that kind of stuff started coming, that's why I'm able to deal with that in a way that is does not compromise who I am. So, when I went to ESPN, one, it was not my dream job, and I think that was helpful. I do,
I'm
because it was.
laughing because a lot of people, as you know, around campus would say, "It's my dream job." This, so that's why it's funny to me.
It's no, but you're exactly right, and that's not to say that it's a bad thing if it was, but I'm just saying for me personally, it wasn't, and
Mm-hmm.
so um, I wasn't in there always with my cheerleading uniform on. Like, this is a cool
Mm-hmm.
place to work. It's allowed me to do things in my life I didn't imagine I could do, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, if this ain't the end all be all to me. Like, I'm not defined by this place, and it's a lot of people that come in there and they allow themselves to be defined by their job. So because I had that mentality, I think I was able to kind of take everything in stride. And so having that sense of self was very important. So because of inevitably, as it did happen with me, the bullshit gonna happen. The drama's
Mm-hmm.
gonna come. And so when the drama comes and you don't know who you are, then that's gonna leave you in a really bad position. And so when it finally came, I was good. I was like, all right, this is what it is. And so I think I'm really grateful that I was grounded before um, before I had to decide what it is that was important to me and put whatever I needed to be on the line.
You know what? You've been asked this question so many times, and I was like, how am I going to talk about it and make it different? I mean, I don't even know if are you sick of talking about your experience at ESPN?
No, not really. I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, I would expect to talk about it a lot because it's the longest job I ever had. I was there 12 years, and I
Mm-hmm.
realized that most people know me because of that. And so it's not, yeah, it doesn't bother me. I'm not like, I don't want to talk about it. It's like it was a part of my life. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Well, like the New York Times wrote an article about behind the scenes and some of the things the employees were enduring. And I read the article, and I know you made some quotes and some statements, and I can't say I was surprised to see, but so many days I felt a certain way, and I felt like, I would speak up and say things to my peers, but I just felt like sometimes I didn't hear enough other people, speaking out, and I was frustrated. So when certain articles came out, it gave me a sense of like, you know, like
Right.
not to say that I don't want to say, how sometimes you be like, I knew I wasn't crazy, but it makes you think to yourself, why don't other people say anything? It's like you get treated a certain way and just get numb to it, you know.
I mean, I'll say this though. I mean, for one, me and the writer for the New York Times talked a long
Mm,
time, and he probably used 5% of what I said. That's no knock on him, but like, he's trying to do something that is, it's a difficult task. It was a little all encompassing. So a lot of the experiences I shared with him never made print. Um, but to your point about people who speak up versus those who don't, um, look, there is no question the things that I vocalized at ESPN, particularly my last 3 to 4 years, those are things that if I were in my 20s, I don't think I would have said. Like, or if I were in my 30s or at a different point in my career. The thing is that it takes some time for you to get comfortable doing that. And you have to know as soon as you say something exactly what it is you're willing to sacrifice. And I think everybody at ESPN is in a different position. Some people feel more empowered to say these things than others. And for me, it's that by the time I decided to really pick my battle and my fight, I was willing. if I lost my job, I just did. Like, it just was what it was. You know what I'm saying? But that's not something that I could have afforded to do when I was 28, you know?
No, I get
So,
it. Yeah.
yeah, so some of it is that. And you'd be surprised, especially at ESPN, like a lot of us, anytime some shit went down, we were having meetings with folks. We just like, and I know that for the public, they'll see something like that happens and they assume because we're not public and we don't say anything, we don't go off on ESPN that we didn't say anything. That is so not true at all. Like
Mm-hmm.
we were called, it wasn't nothing for any one of us when he was president to tell Skipper that some shit was awful and bad and
Mm-hmm.
have like it was nothing for us to do that or to go directly to people or to call folks out. Like we would do it, it just would be kind of behind closed doors. And so because I like even when that thing happened with the fantasy football draft with the slave with the slave auction.
Wait a minute. I was walking and I saw it happening. Like I literally saw it happen. And I'm like,
Right.
what the hell is going on? Like,
I had no idea it didn't happen. I was like, wait, you mean not nary a person thought that there was something wrong with this?
right.
But let me tell you, it was many emails and meetings that happened as a result of that. And we all like, I mean, it didn't necessarily, the baton didn't get passed to me. Like it wasn't I didn't get a chance to vocalize it, but I knew several people that did, that told them the reason y'all in this position and y'all getting fried right now publicly and deservedly so is because y'all don't have no black producers. And you don't have any
They
black
had,
producers.
excuse me, they had plenty of people they could have promoted.
There you go.
And, and,
There
and
you
that,
go.
and not to interrupt you, but that's why I like that article New York Times did, because we can see Miss Jemele Hill, we can see Miss Kera Champion, we can see Mr. Mike Hill, we can see blah 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 blah, because y'all are TV heads. But what
Right.
about the people who running the cameras? What about the audio people?
Exactly.
We
Exactly.
were having our own stories too.
Yeah.
So that article gave us a voice as well, and that's why I was happy to see it. And I'll say I have respect for ESPN because, and I want to say this, and I'm just going to be honest because I feel like God's protecting me. I, it's like a relationship, a badass relationship. Because on one end, I love ESPN. I love that motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then on another one, I'm like, damn, bitch. You know what I mean? Like,
You're like, why you treat me like this?
well,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like I have so much respect because I learned so much. I learned so much, and I'm at such peace in my life now. It was definitely, I needed that. But then I'm looking at some of the challenges, and I'm like, well, it just opened your eyes to the world.
Yeah.
You
No,
get what I'm saying?
I completely get what you said. Just real quick before I expound on what you're saying, because I see it coming up in the chat. People, so there was apparently when you Google me, it says that I'm 62 years old. If you guys really think I'm 62, y'all crazy. I am not 62 years old.
Look at this fresh face with the nice
I'm
freckles on
like,
it. This girl is not 62. Y'all better stop playing with us today, baby. Stop playing. Uh-oh,
yeah,
Jemele
yeah.
spinning.
Uh-oh, I'm back. I'm back. I was like, no, I am not 62 years old. I'm like, y'all crazy. But no, I mean, what you said is very true, is that it's a place that, you love, you certainly poured all your efforts and your heart into 100%. We all did, but at the same time, it's corporate America. It's a dynamic in corporate America that Black people face that is pretty consistent across the board, and you have to fight for a lot of things. You're gonna run into microaggressions like all the time, and so you luckily were able to kind of overcome some of those things.
I mean, I had to take a breather afterwards, but like I said, I'm glad for the experience. I remember working with you a lot on His and Hers. Uh, when it first started, when it was Numbers Never Live, before you were even on there, like, I seen the progress. Like, I feel like I've seen you grow as well. So it's just been like a. I need to put this in a book, basically, my experience.
No, I mean it was you saw it from the inception when we were, as we like to used to joke to say, so when we were selling tapes out the trunk. Right?
Yeah, I heard
That was,
y'all say that before.
yeah, that was our motto, because we didn't, the way the show even happened, we didn't have a lot of publicity. We was in Studio N in that little corner, the little raggedy studio, trying
Right.
to right, trying to make TV magic happen, happen all the time. But I'm grateful for those experiences, because it's so funny, because once we got to Sports Center, and Sports Center, you in the $17 million studio, our staff quadrupled, and we got all these bells and whistles. We got a marketing budget. Suddenly we got commercials. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it was a true upgrade in a lot of ways, but there is we didn't have as much fun. Like, it wasn't the same as when we were doing his and hers, and really in our own world. Didn't have to really answer to anybody. Mike cussing on air, like.
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, we used to get away with some crazy stuff. And so to go from that to being under more careful scrutiny at Sports Center, it was a big reason why I left. It's like, it wasn't, the show wasn't us. They were trying to take the soul of who we were out of the show. They were definitely trying to take all the blackness out the show. And
Mm-hmm.
so we were just, I mean, the great thing about it, and Mike and I were kind of both like this. We were just like, if we can't do this the way we know we can do it, that'll make us, really bring out the best in us, and for that matter, serve the culture. We don't want to fuck with it. So the easiest thing I've ever done is walk away from Sports Center. Like, people are like, I can't believe you walked away. Real easy. And especially easy when them contract numbers don't change. So, I mean, it's like
Right.
very easy to do. So,
I
not
was
hard at
kind of
all.
like disappointed because his and hers was doing so well, and that was a time where I felt like they wanted to take the energy from that show to bring it to Sports Center, and I
Yeah.
was just like, well, damn, And I used to love y'all podcast, and it's like I just felt like, I mean, I got why it was done, but then it was just like, I mean,
Well,
were you sad to leave the show, his and hers, too?
see, that's the thing is people have said, like, well, why, we don't understand why you didn't stay on his and hers. Okay, people, this is what you got to understand. Um, you would have wanted us to turn down the opportunity to have an audience that was twice as big. Not to mention, we were both getting
True.
new contracts out of it with more money than we had ever been paid at ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, the Sports Center machine, I mein, it's a cultural icon. Like, you don't turn that down. And so we're talking about seats that Stuart Scott sat in, Rich Eisen, like the best broadcasters in sports history sat in these seats. Like, you do not change it. You don't say, nah, I'm good over here in ESPN2. And not to mention, ESPN2 was undergoing a lot of changes.
Mm-hmm.
Mike and Mike was ending. It was a lot of talks about whether or not they were going to move First Take over to ESPN. It was a lot of things happening. So we didn't know. What we didn't want to happen is a game of musical chairs on ESPN2, and we try to sit down and ain't nothing there. And
Mm-hmm.
so we were just like, oh, this makes all the sense in the world. And it was something that they offered to us. Mike and I never tried, we never went to them like, we want to be Sports Center anchors. They came to us because they wanted to do the same thing that they did with Scott Van Pelt Sports Center, where this
Oh,
was
okay. Yep.
yeah, his personality, his stamp on this, his branded Sports Center, because they were getting into personality branded Sports Center, and they saw some of the things we did on his and hers, and they thought it would be perfect for ESPN, and for that slot in particular, which is a tricky slot. I mean, it's 6 p.m. The sports of the night haven't happened. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Everything that happened before you, people have seen all day. So you really do have to have a lot of vision and a lot of savvy with presenting people stuff that they have seen. And so yeah, I mean, we accepted the challenge, and we thought it was a great opportunity, for us, provided um, that they pretty much leave us alone and let us do what we do. But that's not the way Sports Center operates. Is that it's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and as Mike used to say, a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but don't nobody know how to make a meal. So
Right. Right.
so we had to, deal with that. I mean, and really, it was just like a ton of creative differences that that we had from the beginning. And nobody, when we started Sports Center, nobody was thinking we're going this is gonna fail. Like, we all wanted it to succeed, but we all had very
Mm-hmm.
different ideas of what success looked like and what it took to succeed.
Thank you for letting me hear your experiences. I'm gonna move to the afterlife of ESPN
Mm-hmm.
because, like, right now I'm in such a peaceful place, and that's I'm honest. Like, I've never felt this great before. I feel like I'm really lit. I want to know, how are you feeling right now? You're working for the Atlantic. You have a new show, Kera and Jemele. You have a production company. What else are you doing? I mean, you're doing all these little projects. You have your podcast, Jemele Hill is Unbothered. How, how is 2020 for you? You're married,
Yeah.
so how is life now for you?
Life is very busy.
Mm-hmm.
you know, I joke with people that I traded in one job for like 22 jobs.
Right, you
So,
sure did.
yeah. So, but it's good though, because I get an opportunity to tell stories in a number of different ways, and to hear stories in a number of different ways. You mentioned the podcast. I have two podcasts, because
Mm-hmm.
not only Jemele Hill is Unbothered, I have the Wire podcast, rewatch podcast that I'm doing with Van Lathan, on the Ringer Podcast Network, also on Spotify, where we break down every episode of The Wire. We're just about to start season
Mm-hmm.
4. So I have that going, the TV show with Carrie, and also revising the manuscript for my first book, which will be out next year. And this
Wow.
is, yeah, it's an autobiography, which is exactly, or a memoir, not an autobiography, which is not the book I envisioned writing. I did not want to
Mm-hmm.
write about myself, but nevertheless, that is what the consensus seemed to be that I needed to do. So I'm trying to finish that up. And in addition to also being in the process of selling some TV shows. So a lot of people, I consider myself to be really blessed, because during this pandemic, there's a lot of people that are out of work. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people who have been laid off, people who have been struggling. But the pandemic has been a really different experience for me, because there has been a real an increased thirst for content, especially Black content. And so
Yes.
yeah, so that has been good for my business,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Because part of this reckoning that we're having right now as a country, this racial reconciliation, is that suddenly white folks want to hear from Black people, and they want to tell Black stories, because it's not even about like giving us anything. It's about the fact that that is where the profit margins are sending them, is that right now it is an incredible growth opportunity in Black content across the board. So
See,
uh,
that's what I wanted to ask you. I'm glad you hit on that because Black is trending once again. We've always been popular, of course, but now they're actually admitting that they love everything that we're about. Do you think that will last? Because they just doing everything for us now. All these Black shows, they want to hear our stories, like you said. Are we just trending, or what's going on?
so I do think culturally they realize that this is a very wise investment. The demographics are changing. Like, a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
conversations, or I want to say the conversation. So the reason why this is such a racially divisive time is there is a significant population change that's taking place in 2042, where
Mm-hmm.
white people, for the first time in history, will not be the majority of this country. Many of them know this. Some are totally fine with that, but there's a huge percentage, a huge faction of them that are not. And
Mm-hmm.
they are making that known politically. And this is the last grasp of power. But if you're in content and if you're in certain industries, you know that with a changing demographic, your business has to change. And so, and not only that, like, when it comes to loyalty of entertainment, Black consumers are a totally loyal group.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, we over index everything that we love. We over-index linear television. We over-index social media. Black people make things hot. We make things trend. We have throughout all of pop culture history. It's always been us. Okay,
Yes.
we're the arbitrators of cool. It's us. So now the one thing that I'm glad to see is many more of us now are not content to be employees. We want to be content owners. And that's the shift. The shift is not that Hollywood is suddenly welcoming us in. The shift is we're
Mm-hmm.
demanding more. Like you already know, if you want to create anything with Issa Rae, she got to own it. Flat out. Like flat out. Like, or any of these other people that you see that have their names on it. Issa is executive producing everything. She is going into partnerships with people. Like, she is owning all the things that she does. LeBron does the same thing on the sports end. LeBron owns everything he does. And because they're showing those kind of business models now, most of us know what we need to do if we plan to, step into this content arena in a real way. I mean, Carrie and I are executive producers of our own show. Both of our production companies get credit for this show. Vice is the
Awesome.
platform. We are in partnership with them. And the one thing that we have not been able to do very well because of institutional racism, because of a bunch of other factors, is own our own narratives and stories. And that's why with Colin Kaepernick, for example, um, he owns everything. That's why he's getting into publishing. That's why he's doing all these things where he owns his own story. And so, as long as you own your own story and you're managing your own brand and everything, like, you're in a really good position to be able to create generational wealth. And so that's what it's about. So right now is a really good time for us to shape a new narrative. We're going to face hostility as we always have, but just think about it. This country, we don't really make much anymore. It's not a manufacturing based company like it used to be, like our parents grew up with. But the one thing that the rest of the world still wants to see from us, or still hungers um, from America, is pop culture, which Black people
Mm-hmm.
absolutely own.
Beautiful. And I salute my hat to you and Carrie and all the other people, Israel, because it makes it easier for like people like me when I get my own platform, my bigger platform. The fact that you guys are smart on your business tip is gonna make it easier for the next people to come in because they're gonna know that we're gonna come in right and we're gonna want to own this stuff. So I mean, I salute you ladies for doing that and being smart enough to know how to make these business moves happen in the right way. That's really big. So you said something about generational wealth, and that made me think about legacy. Do you think about legacy? About what that means, your legacy, what you want to, you know what I'm saying? Like what you want to leave here?
The only time I think about legacy is when an astute interviewer like yourself asks me about it.
You
But
should be thinking about it.
well, I think about it in this way. It's like, I don't sit around, I don't think about it necessarily in terms of legacy. I think about purpose.
Okay.
Purpose is different to me than legacy. And so my purpose throughout my career has changed a lot. I mean, of course, as we all do, when we first start getting into whatever is our professional business, we think more about what we want to get out of it, as we should.
Mm-hmm.
How it can fulfill us, what we want to do to succeed, what success looks like for me. But now that I've been able to, thankfully do a lot. I mean, having had, my own TV show, having been able to, win awards and go to the White House and do all these things and work at ESPN, those are all great and personally very gratifying. But ultimately, I want the measure of my career to be about who I help in this business, not really about what I accomplish. I've done what I needed to do, I think. And that doesn't mean to imply that it's not more things that I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I don't want, by the time I'm finished with this business, I don't want some of the grim statistics to still be there like they were when I was there. When I was a sports columnist at the Orlando Sentinel, this is in 2005. I was the only
Mm-hmm.
black female sports columnist at a major, or not a major, at a daily newspaper in North America. not just America.
It's crazy.
I was the only one out of 405 daily newspapers. That can't be the case when I leave. I'm not saying I'm not responsible for having for that being the case, but
Mm-hmm.
if anything, I've got to be able to show younger journalists and younger kids and even other women that are still trying to figure out what their lane is in this business and figure out where they belong. I've got to be able to stand for something so that they have something that they feel like they can grab onto, that they feel like this is that their voice matters. So I'm in it for that. And because that one out of 405 is never going to sit right with me. It can't be that. That's embarrassing. And it's a real indictment about how little acknowledgement and how little respect that Black women have in this industry, which is why I
Mm-hmm.
celebrate so hard every time I see somebody like Taylor Rooks being elevated, or the fact that Elle Duncan is doing her thing, or even all the projects that Carrie's involved with, like
Mm-hmm.
all these women in the business that have been able to carve out their own piece of this. It's like that has got to continue. It can't die with us. So as best I can, I'm going to try to not just, I'm not leaving the door open. I'm changing the room when I get in there so that this is not the case.
That is so beautiful, Jemele. That was great to hear. And I have to tell Black people, let's continue uplifting each other. Like, even if I have a problem with another Black woman or a Black man, if somebody asks me out in the media, I'm not gonna bash them. I'm still gonna uplift them, and that's how we need to be. I'm so proud of all you guys and what y'all been able to accomplish. Because sometimes when you was little, you thought you was the only person with a certain dream, but it was other little girls with that same dream. You know,
Yeah.
maybe it had different situation. I'm just thinking about another thing me and you have in common. We both lived in Orlando. So,
Oh,
it's like
right. Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So we have a few things in common, but just different paths. But we were two little girls once who had a dream.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that is so beautiful. Look, the time is going by so fast and there's a lot I want to get in. So I heard that you have a problem with saying no. Is that true?
I do. I'm getting better at it. So that's the good thing because there's so many things that you want to do, and I hate to let people down, but I have found that for me to be at my best self, I need to really be able to do that. Is to tell people no, or to really be very protective of my time,
Well, let me
especially.
wait. Let me stop
Uh,
you right there, Jamel. I got
okay.
something for you, girl. I got
Uh
something for you.
oh. Uh oh. Uh oh.
All right, I call this segment how to say no. I'm gonna teach you in different languages how to say no. Now
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm gonna say no, and you're gonna say it back in the same language. So we're gonna start off with American. So here we go. No.
No.
Okay, perfect. Swedish, nay.
Nay.
Awesome. German, nine.
9.
Okay, French, non.
No.
I like how you did. Okay, you did the little lip curl and
Yeah.
everything. Italian, no.
Damn, that sounds okay. No. That
Yeah,
sounds
just
aggressive.
shout it.
Yeah.
Spaghetti, meatballs, no. Just spit it out. Spanish, no.
No.
Perfect.
I'm glad. But the best quote I heard about the word no. Lena Waithe said this. I was moderating a panel she was on, and she said no is a complete motherfucking sentence. And I was like, yes, it is.
I
Yes,
like
it is.
that.
I was like, I'm here for that because sometimes this is the other thing I'm trying to get out the habit of doing is uh I'm definitely trying to get out of the habit of saying yes to everything. But when I
Mm-hmm.
say no, feeling as if I need to justify why I'm saying no.
Oh yeah.
That's why she said that. Because a lot of us, especially women, because I feel like men don't necessarily have this problem to the degree that we do, is that when you say no, you always feel the need to like, I'm saying no because I gotta do this and I gotta do that, da da da. Like, no, no, that's it's a complete sentence. No, that's
No,
what it
that's
is.
it,
That's
baby.
it.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for never saying no to me. You didn't say no about coming on the show. You didn't
No.
say no about being on my intro to my album, Kera. It's out now on all platforms. Google me, baby. So when I taught you to say no, don't say it at me, but for all those
No,
other
no, it's for
people,
everybody else. Okay.
yeah, no, it's for
Yeah,
everybody.
and now I know how to say it in different languages, so it's even better.
You were
but
good.
but but notice how no in every language, for the most part, is pretty universal, which should tell you something.
That's right. That
Mm,
means no.
that
It's
means
for
no.
real.
Yes,
So check this out. I have to ask you because I was literally so happy for you. You got a fine ass husband. I hope you don't mind me saying.
I do not.
Okay.
That's how he thinks of himself as well.
Ooh, I saw him with his shirt off when y'all was going on all those little vacations. I don't know where y'all was, but it was pretty. I am so happy for you, girl. Cause my little life is a horror movie. We won't even talk about that. I told you that before, baby. It's a horror movie.
Yeah, you did.
Non-existent. So I'm just so happy for you. Anytime I can see a sister hooked up with a brother, and I want to know, how has marriage changed you?
It's changed me in really all the best ways because I think one of the things that was my struggle, and I know that for a lot of Black women, especially career-oriented Black women, this can be a problem, is it's hard for us to show vulnerability. And it certainly was hard for me, for sure, because I think you're in this mode of like, you used to doing everything for yourself. You know, you're the only person that you can only depend on you. You can't really rely on anybody else. You're taught to almost be self-sufficient to a fault. And
Mm-hmm.
so, um, knowing it was always hard for me to kind of peel back all those things and just be able to um, rely on somebody else, or if I'm feeling certain emotions, be able to share those with somebody else. And the thing about marriage is that it forces you to be vulnerable with somebody else. That's the whole reason you married them. And that was a welcome change for me. It just helped me grow so much emotionally. It just helped me grow so much emotionally, like being in a marriage, because I think, and look, I'm saying this, I'm 10 months in. It may be people out there that's in this chat that have been in it 15 years, 20 years, whatever. I'm sure they have way better advice than I do. But the one thing that is kind of central to why we have been able to be a successful couple and have a successful marriage is that you have to be committed to something bigger than you. And we're both committed to not ourselves individually, but for not just serving each other and not just serving God, but also, understanding that we are a unit now. This is a partnership. This is, we have each other's back. This is somebody that we're each other's emergency contact. That means something, you
Oh
know.
man, I seen. Is it pronounced N or Ann? I
Ian.
know it's probably N. Duh.
Yeah.
Okay, he's you're on the show Black Love on the OWN network, and it reminded me of something the comedian Monique said about her husband being there and being vocal and being by her side. Your husband seems very supportive of you
He is.
and very protective. And for me, when you grow up and you love your dad, most girls are daddy girls, and it's like you get used to that. You want to have that caring man, and to see you have a husband that supports you. Jemele, how does that feel?
I mean, it's great because I think that there is this idea, especially because I'm so in the public eye, there's this idea that a lot of men aren't secure enough to handle being in that kind of position. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not to say that, there's a long list of men who are able to handle it. It is to say that it comes to be with me comes with some unique challenges. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because, not only is it going to force a certain part of our lives to be public, but, I mean, we were boyfriend and girlfriend then, but the week that the president attacked me publicly, it's like, that becomes part of his life too. So it's just um, the blowback that I get sometimes from people, the controversies, if you will, these are things that have become a part of his life. when we started dating, it wasn't with this idea that from time to time that I'm gonna make, news. Not that he minds and he handles it great, but it's just like it's just an added complication to our relationship. And then it's also perception, I mean, I'm not saying these figures have been necessarily accurate, but the fact is, like, I mean, my salary has been reported on in the media for like the last 15 years. And so
Yes,
people,
it has.
it has, like, I mean, it's just like,
Right.
I don't know how people find these things out or whatever, but, then people start making assumptions about our relationship and about him. And he has been able to handle that like exceptionally well. And if a less secure man would be bothered by not just the attention that I receive, but also by the
Yes.
idea of that people assuming that he's only with me because I'm famous or I'm his sugar mama, like, all kind of dumb shit, right? So he's able to take that completely in stride. And I think the one thing, or one of the biggest things that I loved about him is that even when we were dating, I mean, the first time we went to the ESPYs, I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking like, I knew just based off being around him how he was, but seeing him in that environment where we're, at LeBron's after party and hanging out with quote unquote super famous people, but he was always himself. He was not like trying to be super fanboy. He wasn't tripping. He wasn't like, nothing. He was just relaxed as if we were around a bunch of people who weren't famous. And so that showed me a lot about like who he was and just how comfortable and secure he was in himself, which is what I certainly needed.
That's beautiful. And I would say more about that, but I want to get a couple more questions in for this time run out.
Okay.
Um, shit. It's just like, I was like, damn.
Did you have a senior moment?
Oh man, yeah, because I'm like trying to fit it in under this whole hour. It's like I could talk to you for a long time. Um, crowd, where did my thoughts go? Oh, Jemele, when everybody was against you, like not everybody, but when people would talk trash about you and all this stuff, internally, what are you thinking? Was it really easy for you to deal with? Did you just want to curse people out?
I mean,
Like,
the only part that bothers me is that it gets frustrating after a while because
mm-hmm.
you you get tired of people talking shit. You be like, all right, man, like, okay, enough is
Knock if
enough.
you buck.
Right,
Right, yeah.
exactly.
Run
Enough
up
is
on
enough.
me.
Right. And especially you already know how it is on social media. A lot of people be talking real slick, with these
Right.
keyboards and everything. And you're just like, now
Did y'all forget I'm from Detroit, baby?
I try to remind
Like,
them. Yeah, that's why I don't know if you saw that the post show we did for Black Love, but we were talking about dealing with some of the hatred that I get. I let everybody know my husband's a gun owner, just so you know. So
okay.
y'all can try all that if you want to. Any personal conversation, a personal confrontation you think you gonna have with me is not gonna go down how you think it is. So if anything,
Ma'am.
you just get irritated by, by folks, but it didn't, I didn't internalize what people actually said because I know who I am. Like they don't know me, right? So I'm like, I know who I am, and whatever it is you think I am, you can think those things, but you haven't known me at all. You don't know shit about me beyond what you see on television or what somebody else told you. So why would I care really about any of that? And so for me it was real simple. I mean, when I especially like when I got suspended and everything was going down, I caught a flight to see my husband, then my
Mm-hmm.
boyfriend. We hung out for a whole week together, just like chilling, and I tried to block out a lot of the noise, and that was it. But yeah, no, it didn't. The only things that bothered me were I felt like some of the blowback people that who I do love and care for got, that they didn't deserve that because this was my situation, not theirs. Like Mike, for example, having to do the show when I'm not there and him having to kind of deal with the fallout of some of the stuff that happened. And he never, I mean, he supported me 1,000%, but it's just like it was collateral damage and something that, he really had nothing to do with. So those are the types of things that bother me, not really what people say.
And I have to say, y'all, anybody I have on the show is good people. Like I've known Jemele. I mean, I don't know her, but we know each other. And anybody I had on the show, like Michael, great guy, sweet guy. I mean, these are really good people. And I want to tell people before time run out, make sure you subscribe. I need your support to my podcast on the podcast platform, Spotify, Anchor, Google, Apple, all of them. And also subscribe to my YouTube, follow Jemele on her Spotify, and watch her show on Vice and every other damn thing she's doing. She got so much shit going on. It's ridiculous. Jemele, damn it. What's going on with me with these moments? It's because I got so much to ask you. Oh, I gotta know. It's a 30th anniversary of Fresh Prince. How awesome was it to see the the dark
Black Eye
skin?
Viv. Black
Yeah,
Eye
I didn't
Viv.
want to say it wrong. Sitting with Will Smith. I know that had to excite you as much as it
Oh,
excited me.
super excited. I'm glad that they clearly, I know that they have some differences in their relationship. So glad
Right.
that they seem to have reconciled. Yeah, it's funny because I was able, because of reruns and stuff. Every night I either go to sleep watching Martin or Fresh Prince. Now, when Fresh Prince was on, like I liked the show, but it wasn't. I didn't like Martin was my show, right? So it's like, not to
No,
put
you
this now.
did, Gina. No, you
Yeah.
did. Because I'll take your apple header now. Oh, Gina, no, you did it.
So Martin was
Mama's
like,
bird. I'm sorry.
Mama,
I'm
not
sorry.
my mama bird, not my mama
No,
bird. Yes.
mama.
So Martin was like the show, and so I had a different relationship with the Fresh Prince. I thought it was a good show, but it wasn't something that like hooked me the way that Martin did. But having watching the show now, as I do pretty much every day, it's such a underrated show, and I know that seems crazy to.
Jemele, 18 seconds to go, girl. I love you so much. Thank you so much for doing my show. I would love to have you again if you want to come on. I hope you had a great time. I'm so happy to see
Anytime.
all the things you're doing. God bless you, your marriage, your business ventures, everything.